There comes a time in life when everything seems still. You make du'as, you hope, you wait, but nothing changes. And yet, deep inside, something tells you, I'm close, something is happening. It's not your imagination, it's a sign. This strange feeling, this tension in your soul, it's Allah preparing your turning point. Because sometimes, before the light enters, Allah places you right on the edge of darkness. What if you were already on the brink of your miracle? Stay until the end, because what you are about to hear could be exactly the message your heart has been waiting for. You feel it, don't you? That strange emptiness, that fluttering in your chest, unsure whether to hope or give up. That feeling that something is brewing, yet nothing is moving. As if your life were suspended between two breaths, the breath of waiting and the breath of destiny. You look around, and everything seems frozen. Your prayers rise, but you hear no echo. Your efforts pile up, but the world remains silent. You keep moving forward, but each step seems to lead you back to the same place. And yet, deep inside, there is a peace, fragile, almost imperceptible. A small light that refuses to go out, even when everything else darkens. You don't understand it, but it's there, like an invisible promise, as if a force were whispering to you, don't stop. This is where it all begins. What you're experiencing now, this silence, this waiting, this feeling of being forgotten, is not the absence of Allah. It is His presence disguised as a trial. Silence is never empty. It is in this silence that destinies are rewritten, that souls prepare themselves, that hearts learn to see beyond the visible. You may think that nothing is happening, but in the unseen realm, everything is in motion. Sometimes, Allah removes the noise of the world so that you may finally hear what He has been trying to tell you for so long. You prayed for answers. He offered you silence. Because the answers are not always found in words. They are found in the transformation of your heart during the waiting. Each moment of emptiness is an invisible stitch. Allah mends your soul while you believe He has left you alone. And the more you wait, the more He stretches you, the more He expands the space within you. So that when good arrives, your heart will be vast enough to contain it. You see, silence is not forgetfulness. It is a sacred conversation where only your heart understands the language of Allah. It is there that your faith ceases to be a concept and becomes a breath. It is there that your heart learns to trust without guarantees, to love without proof, to wait without limits. Sometimes everything must stop so that you can hear what your soul whispers. This is not the end. This is the preparation. And it is precisely in these moments of stillness that things change the most. For Allah does not work in noise. He works in the subtlety of silence, in the slowness of the seasons, in the quiet beat of the hours when you think nothing is happening. Look at the seeds. They die in the earth before being reborn. Look at the night. It stretches on until the first glimmer of light dares to pierce through. Nothing blossoms without passing through darkness. And you are no exception to this divine rule. When everything seems to stand still, it is often because something immense is taking shape, just behind the veil of your impatience. Silence is the gestation of the miracle. It is the space where your soul matures before its liberation. So do not despise this moment when you understand nothing. Do not believe that your isolation is rejection. It is a divine retreat, a private encounter with your Creator, even if you cannot see Him, even if you cannot hear Him. You are in that rare place that few understand. The place where Allah tests you, not to break you, but to purify you of everything you thought you knew about faith, patience, and trust. This place where prayer becomes breath, where pain becomes learning, where your heart finally begins to beat in unison with the destiny He has prepared for you. You don't realize it, but with every moment of your waiting, your soul is transformed. It becomes more refined, more aware, more lucid. It learns to recognize what is true, to let go of what is illusory. It is in the silence that you discover what the word tawakkul truly means. Not simply trust, but total surrender. A surrender of your control, your plans, your impatience. A peace in understanding nothing, yet continuing to believe. And it is there that change begins, slowly, silently. One morning, you wake up and you feel something different. The same scenery, the same life, the same problems. But your heart is no longer the same. It is stronger, softer, more awake. What you thought was a period of waiting was actually a period of building. Allah fashioned you in the unseen so that when He reveals the visible, you will be ready to receive it. And if you knew what is being prepared for you behind the scenes of your silence, you would thank Allah for every second when nothing seemed to happen. But for now, stay here, in this silence. Listen. Something is moving very slowly but surely, and perhaps what you are feeling now is the first beat of your next miracle. There's always a moment just before life changes. A moment when everything becomes too heavy, too blurry, too silent. It's the point where you feel you have nothing left to give, where even your heart seems weary of hoping. It's this precise moment, the one where you want to give up, that often hides the door to a miracle. But this door only opens to those who remain standing even when their legs tremble. You see, the greatest breakthroughs don't come easily. They're born in chaos. In the tears shed in silence, in the prayers offered without complete belief, in the nights when the world sleeps and you speak to Allah, your voice breaking. Imagine a traveler in the desert. The sun burns his skin, thirst parches his throat. He has been walking for days, perhaps weeks. Each step becomes a pain, each thought a burden. Around him, everything is empty. No shadows, no water, no signs. He wants to stop. He wants to lie down and let the sand cover his weary body. But deep inside, he hears a voice. One more step. So he moves forward, again. And what he doesn't know is that a meter beneath his feet, a spring awaits. One more step, and his life would have changed forever. How many of us stop just before the miracle? How many give up when Allah was about to say, the time has come? That breaking point you feel, it's not an end. It's a spiritual boundary. It's the invisible line between your old self and the one Allah wants to reveal. But to cross it, you have to let go of everything, your control, your certainties, your plans. You must accept being stripped bare in order to be reborn. You see, Allah never breaks you without reason. When He pushes you to the edge, it's to teach you to fly. When He closes the doors, it's to force you to find the key within yourself. And when all seems lost, it's often because you are shifting to a different inner dimension. What you call the end is only a transition. You are leaving behind what you know to enter into what you deserve. But no one understands this journey except you. It is intimate, solitary, painful. It is a silent battle between your soul and your ego. Your ego cries out, I'm losing everything. But your soul whispers, no, you're being set free. And this inner cry, this tension, this weariness, these are the spiritual contractions of a birth. Your heart is giving birth to a new version of yourself, more conscious, more authentic, closer to God. That's why the breaking point hurts so much, because it tears away what was false and exposes what must finally live. Do you think you're losing people? Things? Landmarks? Number? You're shedding layers, illusions, attachments that were holding you back. And with each loss, a truth is revealed. You learn that peace doesn't depend on what you gain, but on what you're willing to let go of. Look closely at your life. Every time you thought you'd lost everything, wasn't it the beginning of a stronger rebuilding? Every time you thought you were falling, weren't you actually learning to get back up in a different way? Allah never makes you back down. He repositions you. He shifts your soul from the realm of attachment to that of trust. And you can only understand this shift when you are broken. It's when you have no plan B left that you finally discover the divine plan. When you have no one left, when you understand that you only needed one, when you control nothing, when you realize that you never controlled anything. So yes, the breaking point is brutal. It's the collision between your fear and your destiny. But it's also the exact place where Allah reveals Himself most powerfully, not by changing what's around you, but by transforming what's within you. You might think you're failing, but in reality, you are becoming lighter. You are becoming transparent to the light. What if your inner desert were not a punishment, but a sacred school? What if your current pain were not a sign that everything is collapsing, but that everything is aligning? Remember, hearts only open after they have been broken. Light only passes through cracks, and miracles are born only amidst ruins. So don't run from your breaking point. It is your initiation, your passage, the door that only weary but sincere hearts can pass through. And if you listen closely now, amid the noise of your despair, there is a whisper, an ancient promise. Something within you recognizes it. It's the voice of destiny calling you gently, saying, you're not falling apart, you're opening up. And sometimes, it's just before that moment that Allah decides to change everything. Have you ever experienced that moment when everything falls apart? Not just around you, inside you. When everything you thought was solid cracks, when plans crumble one by one and you're left there, in the middle of the void, wondering how everything could have collapsed so quickly. You look at your life and you no longer recognize it. The landmarks that kept you going have vanished. The people you thought would last forever are gone. And the prayers you once offered with such certainty now seem to float in a sky that's too silent. It's a violent, almost shameful feeling. The feeling of having lost control. The feeling of no longer understanding what Allah wants from you. But listen carefully. What you call collapse is often a disguised reconstruction. Because before Allah lifts you up, He begins by emptying you. He tears you away from your illusions, from your comfort, from your attachments. Not to punish you, but to free you from what you didn't know was a prison. When you lose everything, you finally discover what you truly possessed. And what you possessed wasn't your money, nor your job, nor your relationships. It was your connection with Him, your breath, your faith on, your heart that continues to beat, even when everything else stops. You see, as long as everything was going well, you thought your faith was strong. But in reality, it rested on the things you had. It's when Allah takes everything away from you that you discover if your heart was truly attached to Him or simply to what He had given you. Collapses are not ends. They are awakenings, spiritual jolts, calls from Allah to tell you, look elsewhere. What you were seeking wasn't there. And often we resist. We cling to what's leaving. We mourn what's slipping away. We cry out against the injustice. We struggle. But it is in this struggle that transformation begins. Because sometimes your world must crumble so that your soul can breathe again. When everything falls, only you remain, you and him. And it is there, in this confrontation, that you finally discover the truth. You never truly needed all that you lost. You only needed to feel his presence, even in the chaos. But beware, this moment is not peaceful at first. It is brutal. It is a wrenching, a cry, an inner trembling. You want to understand why. You want an explanation. But sometimes, Allah puts you through pain, because it is the only language your soul still understands. It is when the pain becomes too much that the heart begins to listen. And in this listening, something changes. You begin to see the wisdom behind the chaos. You realize that what you took for a loss was actually a shift. Allah removed you from a place that was destroying you, even if you felt safe there. He broke down a door you would have sworn to keep closed, because he knew that behind it lay your liberation. And that is where true understanding is born. The destruction was not a curse. It was a purification. Each time a part of your life crumbles, it is a space that God frees up to place something else, something purer, more just, more aligned with your soul. But you can't see it right away, because the dust of chaos still prevents you from breathing. Do you want to know the most beautiful thing about all this? It's that even in your collapse, you are still being guided. You think you've lost your way, but in reality, you're just changing direction. The collapse is Allah repositioning you, gently but firmly. It is He who pulls you from a path that you would have continued to follow out of habit, out of fear, or out of attachment, and which would have led you to your downfall. It's painful, yes, but it's not meaningless. Every tear, every silence, every sleepless night is a conversation with Him, even if you don't realize it, even if you think no one is listening. Because the most awakened souls are often those who have been broken, those who have known loss, fear, doubt, and who, despite everything, have continued to say, I still believe. And if you knew, if you could see what this moment is preparing, you wouldn't hate it anymore. You would understand that your collapse is actually a slow birth, that you are becoming someone else, someone more authentic, more humble, more connected. You think you're down, but Allah is simply rebuilding you from the foundations, the ones you never took the time to strengthen. So when everything collapses, don't rush to rebuild right away. Stay for a moment in the debris. Look at what He has chosen to remove. Perhaps He has removed what was preventing you from breathing. Perhaps He destroyed what you called stability, because that stability kept you away from your essence.
There are times in life when you knock, again and again and again. You knock with prayers, with tears, with your silence. You knock without an answer. And the more the days go by, the more you feel like that door before you will never open. You grow weary. You question yourself. You begin to doubt. Does Allah truly hear me? Have I done something wrong? Why does nothing change, despite everything I do? But what you don't know is that Allah hasn't placed you before a closed door. He has placed you before an invisible door. A door you cannot see, because it doesn't open with your eyes, but with your heart. Every prayer you utter, every tear you shed, every time you fall and get back up, these are keys. Keys turning slowly in a lock
you don't yet perceive. And with each turn of the key, something unlocks, not outside, but within you. You think you're knocking on a door in the visible world, but in reality, Allah is opening one inside your soul. Because sometimes the real lock isn't life, it's your heart. You ask Allah to open paths for you, but your heart is still too burdened to walk through them, too attached, too worried, too wounded. So He works on you before He works for you. He polishes your heart like a craftsman polishes a rough stone until the light can finally shine through it. And this light is what makes the door visible. You see, Allah doesn't tell you no. He tells you not yet. Because before the door appears, He wants you to know how to recognize it. Imagine a traveler in the night. He walks through an endless tunnel, his hands searching for the walls, his feet stumbling over stones he cannot see. Each step is an effort. Each step is an act of faith. But what the traveler doesn't know is that with every step, he approaches a door that is not illuminated. And if he were to stop now, he would die just before finding it. That's exactly what your life is like. You walk through a tunnel that only you know. Others don't understand your struggle. But you keep going. You persevere because your soul remembers a promise it made before this world, to never cease seeking the light. And it is this search that makes the door visible. You think Allah is silent, but this silence is His way of refining you. He leads you through seasons of doubt, fear, and loss, so that when the door finally opens, you will be able to pass through it with a pure heart, and not with a greedy one. How many times have you prayed for something that, if you had received it too soon, would have destroyed you? How many times have you believed that Allah was withholding good from you, when He was actually protecting you from a disguised evil? The invisible door is the place where you learn absolute trust. That's when you discover that it's not prayer that brings about the miracle, but the transformation it brings about within you while you wait. And this waiting is not in vain. Every day, when nothing seems to be moving, something, in the unseen realm, is aligning. Things you don't see. Destinies drawing near. Answers slowly taking shape in the silence. But to see them, you must learn to look differently. You must stop searching for signs outside yourself and start listening for them within. Because Allah doesn't always send you a visible door. Sometimes He sends you a feeling, a sudden peace, a dream that lingers in your mind, an unexpected encounter, an event that moves you without you understanding why. And it is there, in these small details, that you realize the door was there from the beginning. It wasn't waiting to be knocked on. It was waiting to be seen. But be careful. Recognizing the door doesn't mean it will open immediately. Sometimes Allah lets you knock again, not because you haven't done enough, but because He wants your heart to understand that patience is not an effort, but a spiritual stance. Each knock, each Ya Allah whispered in pain, is proof that you haven't given up. And this simple fact, not giving up, makes the walls of heaven tremble. The invisible door is not a test of strength. It is a test of love, a test of faith. It is Allah who asks you, do you still believe in me even when you see nothing? And those who answer yes, even with a weary heart, are the ones who one day see the light appear on the doorstep. And at that moment, everything you've been through makes sense. Every tear, every fall, every night of waiting. You realize that the door was never closed. It was waiting for you, but first, you had to become the person capable of walking through it. What if what you're waiting for isn't in the future, but right now? What if what you call tomorrow, what you keep putting off with when and soon, is already unfolding before your eyes, without you even realizing it? What if the sign you're eagerly seeking, what you've been asking for weeks, what your heart yearns for at night, isn't yet to come, but is already here? In this very moment, as you listen to these words, you think you're waiting for Allah to act. But what if, from the very beginning, He has been waiting for you? What exactly are you waiting for? A visible miracle? A spectacular answer? What if the real miracle is this sudden awareness that's awakening within you now? That shiver you feel as you listen, the slightly stronger beat in your chest. It's not just emotion. It's an answer. A subtle confirmation that you are exactly where you need to be. You look for outward signs. But the real sign is your inner reaction. It's not the world that's shifting. It's your soul beginning to realign. What if what you call waiting wasn't a delay, but a gestation? What if the change you pray to see around you has already begun, within you? Look at yourself. You're breathing. You're still standing, despite the fatigue, despite the fear, despite the silences. That simple fact is already a sign. You think nothing is changing, but you keep getting up, praying, hoping. And that in itself is the movement of destiny. Do you think you're stagnating? Number. You're maturing. You're not stuck. You're growing in a dimension your eyes cannot yet perceive. What if, at this very moment, in a world you cannot see, things are aligning for you? Hearts preparing to meet you, paths slowly opening, answers taking shape, not according to your own schedule, but according to divine rhythm. What if your impatience is causing you to miss the beauty of the process? What if what you believe to be a fruitless waiting is actually a dance between your soul and the will of Allah? You often say, I want things to change. But do you hear the silent question behind your wish? Are you ready to change yourself? Because change doesn't always come from the outside. It begins within. In the way you look at your trials, how you react to pain, how you continue to love, to pray, to hope, when everything inside you wants to give up. What if Allah has already answered you, but not in the way you expected? What if your current situation, however uncomfortable it may be, is precisely the ground in which your miracle will grow? Look closely at your life. There are things that have recently disappeared, people, opportunities, routines. You think it's a loss, but it's a preparation. Allah never leaves a void without placing wisdom within it. What if you're not losing, but being placed back? Not rejected, but redirected. You're searching for answers, but sometimes the answer lies in the waiting itself. Because the waiting reveals your level of faith. And this trust, it's the key. Do you want doors to open? Start by opening your heart. Do you want to see the future? Look at the present with different eyes. What if you decided, right now, to believe that this moment isn't a pause but a transition? What if you stopped saying, I'm stuck, and started saying, I'm repositioning myself? What if you stopped asking when, and started saying now? Because Allah acts in the now. He doesn't work according to your schedule. He works according to your preparation. And perhaps what you've been feeling lately, this fatigue, this weariness, this feeling of emptiness, isn't a blockage, but the final adjustment before your shift. You're at the limit, on the edge of your trial. But the edge isn't the end. It's the threshold. It's the border between the old version of you and the one that's ready to emerge. You think you're going to fall, when in reality, you're about to cross. What if the miracle you're waiting for doesn't come from the outside, but from the moment you realize you no longer need to wait? Because from the moment you understand that everything is already in motion, that even your silence is heard, that even your breath is counted, you enter another state, a state of pure tawakkul. Not a patience that endures, but a patience that knows. A patience that no longer asks, when? But whispers, I know it's already happening. And perhaps, right now, at the very moment you hear these words, your soul has already crossed that border. You can't see it yet. But in the unseen realm, something has already begun to stir. There is a reason you are listening to these words today. An invisible reason, written before you were even born. You did not end up here by chance. Chance does not exist in the language of Allah. You think you stumbled upon this video out of curiosity, but in reality, it is your soul that has been called. It recognized something in these words, a distant echo, a familiar vibration, as if somewhere in the unseen realm a bell had just rung your name. This beating you feel in your chest right now, this shiver, this stir, this gentle warmth, it is not an ordinary emotion. It is an awakening, a reminder, a breath from a world you have forgotten for too long. For there is a part of you that has never slept. Even during the times you were far away, even when you were lost, even when you thought you had destroyed everything, your soul remained awake. And today, it calls you back. Not back to mechanical practices, but to a state of presence, of awareness, of connection, a state where you finally feel that everything you experience has meaning. Listen carefully. The spiritual world is moving around you. Your name is circulating in the heavens. Things are aligning, silently or patiently. Destinies are intersecting because of a simple decision you're about to make. An inner yes can change everything. What you have been feeling lately, this intensity, these uncontrollable emotions, this strange fatigue, these are not coincidences. It is the sign that your soul is awakening and waking up. It shakes you up. It jolts you. It takes away everything that was lulling you to sleep. Attachments, dependencies, illusions. Everything that kept you in a fog begins to dissolve. You think your life is falling apart, but no, it's being reorganized. Allah is rewriting your script before your very eyes. He's removing you from certain places, distanced you from certain people, emptying you of certain habits. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. To prepare your heart to contain what is coming. Because what is coming is great, and your soul knows it. That's why it's restless. That's why you feel this inner fire, this tension between what you were and what you are becoming. You are not in crisis. You are transforming. You are not losing everything. You are being reborn. And this rebirth is not gentle. It hurts because it tears away the layers of your old self. But behind the pain, there is liberation. Behind the confusion, there is clarity. Behind your silence, an answer is approaching. Do you sense that something is brewing? You are not mistaken. What you are feeling is the jolt before the opening, the air before the light, the calm before the wave. Look at your life. All the pieces of the puzzle are beginning to connect. Sudden encounters, new ideas, powerful intuitions. Your heart is becoming more sensitive, more receptive, more aware. It is not you who are changing. It is your soul that is finally taking its rightful place. And in the midst of all this, a subtle voice whispers to your heart, don't move. Don't doubt. The time is now. Now, not tomorrow, not when everything is clear, not when you understand. Now, right where you are, with what you have, with your past, your flaws, your scars. Because Allah doesn't expect you to be perfect. He expects you to be authentic. You've spent too much time wanting to be ready. But the truth is, awakening never waits for perfection. It strikes when the soul is broken just enough to listen. And you've reached that point where you no longer want to run away, where you no longer need to understand everything, just to feel that you're not alone. And you're not. Because at the very moment you hear these words, angels surround your name. Invisible paths open. Prayers rise, intertwine, and ascend. And among them, yours is about to be answered. But not through a spectacular miracle, not through a life-altering event, number, through an inner shift, a sudden peace, a light that settles in your gaze, a gentle certainty that you are exactly where Allah wants you to be. You have nothing to prove. You only have to remember. Remember where you come from. Remember that your soul has already seen worlds before this one, that it has already known the presence, that it has already tasted the light, and that it will not rest until it has found it again. So breathe. Let go of control, the hows, the whens. Step into this moment with trust. Because awakening isn't some distant future, it's happening right now. Look around you. Feel that vibration in your heart. It's the sign. It's the signal. What you've been waiting for is already underway. You are not at the end of your story. You are on the threshold of a new dawn. And beyond this silence, there is a call that continues to whisper your name. A call that only your soul can hear. What if, this time, you finally decided to answer it? If your heart resonated with this word, it is no coincidence. Perhaps Allah has guided you here to remind you that He has never stopped watching you. You are closer to your turning point than you think. Change is not tomorrow. It begins now. So before you leave this video, take a moment. Breathe. Say, Alhamdulillah. Not because everything is all right, but because everything is becoming all right. And if this message has spoken to you, share it. Perhaps someone else is on the verge of their own miracle and needs to hear these words today.